So then we can start with Ganga Devaiah, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Um, so thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so I worked at TriHealth Hospitals, which is in Cincinnati for many, many years. I think you may have heard about it, like, since you're all up in Dayton. TriHealth is it's a huge community hospital, but it also has its own research wing. So I worked for the research wing, and specifically I serviced the obstetrics and gynecology department. So any of those OB-GYN data sets kind of came my way. After that, I had my first child, and then my husband also had to move to San Diego. So I took a little bit of a career break, and then I got a job at UCSD, University of California, San Diego. So I worked there for a little bit. And I mostly worked on NIH data sets. I think you may have heard like a lot of issues with funding, NIH data related funding issues. And my position was one of those positions that was impacted. So right now I'm kind of switching gears, and I'm kind of upskilling, and I'm actually taking a course. So instead of getting back on the job market, I decided I'm gonna upskill. And also we're expecting our second child, so that's also in the works. Yeah, so any questions for me, related to working in the healthcare field, in the hospital field, related to research or data analytics, or for example, decision support, please have them please have them set. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, and then Genghua.
Hello, everybody. My name's Genghua. You can call me Grant. My English name is Grant. I started my career after my master program at Bowling Green State University in math and stat, where I connected with Tessa. We crossed paths there when she was a PhD there. Awesome school, and I soon found a job found myself in banking. If you have heard about this, the Congress passed a bill that called Dodd-Frank Act that requires the large financial institutions to do stress testing. The Federal Reserve will release these various scenarios, and the banks would do loss forecasting based on these scenarios and make sure that they're well capitalized. So in a sense, I owe my job to them. I did that for 4 years at a bank called Key Bank in Cleveland, Ohio. Then I thought similar to Tessa's, she was talking about going with a scooter, and you can only do that in the South. So I loved that. So I had to move south. So I've been in Atlanta since for the last 6 years working for Ameris Bank. Within Ameris Banks, I have changed roles. I started as a model validator, reviewing in the bank. There are hundreds of models, credit, market, operational risk, all sorts of models. And I did that for 4 years. And Ameris Bank did an acquisition on Balboa Capital, based in California. They do equipment leasing deals, and they have credit scorecards. And the guy who was the head of that division left, so I filled in that role and been back to model development for the last 2.5 years.
All right.
So that's my career path.
Wonderful. Jeremy Boerger.
Hello, everyone. First off, Dr. Chen, thank you much for having me, and thank you, Stephen. My name is Jeremy Boerger, and I work in a very niche segment of IT service management called Information Technology Asset Management. And I'm going to admit, I feel a little out of place because you've got people that are working in healthcare and people that are working in finance. And my work is in service support, the, one step beyond the janitors of the world. So your IT departments in your large organizations need to be able to know what kinds of computers, what kinds of software, what kinds of servers are making up their computer environment, and then be able to get that information in a timely fashion over to other groups to make sure that not only the computer environment is actually servicing the people that are doing the work, like robot surgeries or manufacturing airplane parts or protecting your bank account from fraud. But the IT department then needs to be able to get information to cybersecurity, get that information over to also procurement and asset disposal to make sure that the cost of running all of those tools and all of that hardware and software and SaaS and such doesn't break the budget. So I've been doing this for about 25 years now. Graduated from the University of Dayton in 1998. So we are UD. Yeah, so the career trajectory for me, I actually wanted to start as a lawyer. I was actually philosophy and military history. So spent a lot of time at the humanities building. But then at that time, we had the Y2K bug, and anybody that could fog a mirror was thrown into the IT department to resolve this issue. But my manager at the time, once we solved that and, the world didn't end, because here we are, said, Jeremy, don't want to lose you. You're a hard worker. Could you help us with our Office 98 license renewal? And from that point going forward, I found out that I had a bit of an affinity for it. I could read complicated documents, and we could figure out how to build hardware and software models to line up with what the details are. And I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a great. We intended to have people from different backgrounds. So this is perfect. Thank you so much. Okay.
And then Ying-Ju.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't listen to your introduction, but I will just introduce myself again. Genghua and I were pretty much the classmates, so we graduated at the same time. But a little bit different than him is when I graduated from master's degree, I actually work at a statistics analyst. It holds a common store, so it's more like I dealing with a lot of compliance requests, compile a lot of data using SAS, mainly just SAS. I help the compliance team deal with like a lot of requests, like this is a fraudulent account. Can you check what's going on? Someone's abuse assistant to apply a lot of credit card. All associate want to get the bonus because the associate get bonus when they ask you, hey, you want to apply credit card? So they would use a lot of Social Security to be doing that, and which is like illegal. And then when I got married, I moved to like DMV, DC area. And then I worked for a financial consulting firm for a few years, 2 years. That is more like related to what Genghua was doing, like, a lot of modeling, statistics stuff. I was assigned to different agency, like went to USDA, Fannie Mae, Capital One. And then it was a very tiring job as a consultant, so I decided to join the bank. So now I work for PNC Bank. And currently I'm doing very similar thing what just Genghua say, the stress testing. So it's more like, think of this way, every quarter we have to reserve a loss for all the loan we have. In the past, way before 2008, bank used very straightforward, simple way to reserve cash. to prevent something bad happen. But now we use like more sophisticated way, like we build a model to forecast the loss. So on balance sheet for each individual asset class, let's say auto, commercial loan, C&I, commercial industry, whatever loan, we reserve cash using model. This is more like my day-to-day job. Make sure that this portfolio like reserve is appropriate after we put into the model. Yeah, this is more like my current role is. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing your career pathways.
Yeah.
I'll hand it over to our Vice President, Alexa Neal, to start with the daily work questions that we have.
Yes, thank you. So the first question we have is if you can describe what a day in your life looks like in your role. And anyone can jump in here, anyone who wants to answer.
Shall we just go in order?
Yeah, that works. We could start
Okay.
that way.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, since I mostly worked in research, I think a day at work, I mean, I had a lot of tasks. I worked for hospital system, in healthcare, and I feel like in general, we're always understaffed. So I had to have, take on multiple hats. The data sets that we got were kind of messy, data cleaning. Sometimes I had to put in requests for data sets from IT. So kind of getting back those data sets and seeing if it meets the requirements of the project that we're, trying to answer the question. And then getting back to IT and like, you know what, I don't need this. I need these CPT codes, or I need these ICD codes. So if you're familiar with ICD, CPT, these are like billing codes or diagnostic codes in healthcare, and that's how we kind of get cases out of our EMR system, electronic medical record system. So kind of working with IT to get those data sets from them, kind of looking through, checking for outliers, seeing if this data set kind of matches our study criteria, getting back to our investigators, speaking, having meetings with our investigators, especially in TriHealth. I worked in a lot of projects kind of simultaneously, starting projects, ending projects, analyzing them, getting them published, or having the results back into our healthcare system. With the NIH projects at UCSD, I had a more limited data set, limited projects. They were bigger, but they were more limited. So just a lot of data cleaning, coding, analyzing. I feel like majority of my time cleaning the data set, coding it, making sure we're actually getting what we need out of our data set. And sometimes it's like, since I work with physicians, primarily physicians, and other healthcare professionals like nurses, it's kind of understanding what they need and translating their scientific needs into our code. Yeah, I would say I really, working with physicians and nurses and all the healthcare professionals, they are extremely, intelligent people, and, you learn a lot from them every day. So just working in the scientific field has been, I've never had a boring day, I would say that. Yeah.
So if I can jump in, I'll kind of go along with Ganga there, that a lot of my day is cleaning up bad data. So the tool that we use is referred to as a configuration management database. And that's supposed to be the database that models all of the activity that is going on inside a company's computing environment. Again, who's logging into what, when are they logging into it, what software are they using, what data or servers they're touching, all of that. So a lot of my work, especially at the beginning of the day, is testing that data. And you will cringe, but still being done with spreadsheets, just because it's quick and it's dirty, and it is easy to show to the not so smart people that tend to become the middle managers and the CIOs, that here's what's going on in this environment. Here's what our outliers are. Here's our deviations, and what our plans are to address this. And part of the issue, you wouldn't think that this would be a big deal, that you just kind of set it and forget it. The trouble is, with large organizations, multi-campus hospitals, banks with a lot of branches, multiple locations around the world, things are always changing. So at the beginning of the day, you're going to have a data set that's going to be so far, and then people get hired and fired and move to a different spot, and software audit comes in where Microsoft says you're using more of our stuff than you paid us for, cough over some cash, or a merger and acquisition happens and you need to figure out, well, do we go with their agreement or do we go with our agreement, and how do we do this? So it's just constantly going back to that database, looking at the changes, figuring out whether that change, what that change means, and if that data needs to be normalized a little bit, or if there's an outlier that needs to be called out and then sent to the appropriate group.
Yeah, echoing Ganga and Jeremy, that's definitely data cleaning is a bigger proportion of your work than when you're in school. So yeah, I remember the days when during the model development times of the cycle of it ended up being 80% of the time you spend.
Yeah, you spend more than 50% of time to learn different models in your grade in college, right? You learn a lot of modeling methods, but you use
Yeah.
it for 2 minutes or
That's-
something, but you spend other times for data cleaning.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the real world. I was just add on top of that, I guess, my day-to-day, I spend, depending on the day of the week and the situation, when there's management is asking me to do ad hoc stuff. But I would typically just like to start my Monday with some planning. That's well, things haven't gone too crazy, and preparing for PowerPoint, and there is important meeting with the management, trying to figure out what meaningful insight we can draw. And I do some coding, mostly in Python and SQL, and um, having one-on-ones with my direct report, and that pretty much summarizes my day. Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's my turn. So my day-to-day, not very special. It's very similar to other people. During the past 5 years in banking, my role actually changed quite a lot because the requirement changed, requirement of my responsibility. I also need to assist our team, but it's also like a lot of data cleaning. And currently, PNC is going to acquiring First Bank. I'm responsible to clean the data. So a lot of time I'm coding in Python and clean data as all other team member give me assumption. I prepare data and match their result. A lot of data cleaning process, and then communicate with the different team member to get the ideal result from the forecast model. Yeah, this is very similar to other people. A lot of data cleaning. But during the data cleaning, there's a lot of knowledge. So because we're in banking, like you have to understand a lot of financial or accounting rules. So it's not just like writing code and like clean it. Like you have to understand like, oh, what is the logic behind it? Or what is this variable? How this variable derived is like which teams are using this, other teams are using this, how everything is calculated. Like it's tied into the finance. So a lot of time, I think like I spend a lot of time understanding like, oh, this team, finance team, treasury, or balance sheets, and how they derive different results and how to like tie it back and get reasonable analysis. Yeah. That was the part I think is very tricky. It's not just data cleaning, it's like understanding this rules. Why we're calculating this? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. That was very insightful. And now I'm going to pass it on to Logan to talk about emerging trends in AI.
Hello, guys. My question is, what emerging tools or technologies should students start learning now? So anything that you guys see emerging a lot here or that you use in work and find useful.
Okay. So emerging AI tools or machine learning tools. Let's say that. I think one of the things, that we don't always. I think it kind of depends on your graduate school program, but kind of depends on their curriculum. But for example, I think Bowling Green State had a more traditional statistics curriculum. So some of the things that I felt that I had to kind of learn myself, because it was increasingly being used in the workspace, was like machine learning algorithms, like kind of applying them, learning to code them on R, because sometimes they could provide you results that were as good as, for example, traditional logistic regression. So I think that especially in our field, in the healthcare analytics field or research, I think it's important to kind of be aware of machine learning algorithms. One thing that I have noticed in the healthcare field is because our data is HIPAA protected. HIPAA in the sense that it's the health information and let's say what's the the full form is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and because of that, it's the patient information is protected, so you can't just plug it in anywhere in the AI software on the web. You can't just plug it in, because they are protected health information. You don't know how the data is being stored by this AI software. So in that sense, some of our healthcare data was kind of, I would say, was as a latecomer in this AI data use world. But some health systems, like for example, the University of California San Diego health system is, I think, more, they are more experimental with the use of these kind of AI software. And I know that, for example, they have, this is not for research, but this is for physicians. They have adopted like the Doximity GPT, which allows physicians to type in, the patient's symptoms, and it's going to give you a diagnosis. So stuff like that is happening in the healthcare world. I would say with research, there is lesser tolerance for a breach in PHI, protected health information. So it's kind of this is kind of an area that has been lagging in the for AI tool adoption. It's more in the patient care areas and patient decision support areas. For example, is a patient more likely to fall? So in TriHealth, in the TriHealth hospitals, the data analytics team, they put in a software into our EMR, Epic, electronic medical records, to test to see which patients are likely to fall. So before they tested this software, it was the nurses and the other medical personnel that was kind of in charge of scoring patients that are more likely to fall. But after this software system was put in place, it was kind of to assist the medical personnel. But what they found is after this system, I think JVON, it was called JVON, was added into the system, it didn't help anymore. So even though this software was supposed to help in fall prevention, it actually made the medical professional less likely to identify a fall risk patient. So that is one issue with, I think, AI. You think it works, and as soon as you put it into the system, it stops working. And I don't, there is a I don't know his current title, but UCSD Health, there's a leader, Karandeep Singh, and then he's very famous in the health AI world. And that's kind of one of his pet peeves as well. As soon as you adopt that software into your healthcare system, it doesn't give you the results that it needs to. So he's like, whenever you have this software kind of built into the system, please, also include as part of the package, testing to see if it actually working long term. So yeah, so this is kind of some of the, what I've seen AI influence in healthcare. Thank you.
Well, I can go next. I'll start by just talking about how we feel like we got in the last couple of years the emergence of large language models. It's just starting from ChatGPT of sprouting, then it becomes a tsunami. I feel like and when there was a time when I felt like there was many large language models coming out every single day, and they keep getting bigger. And I remember the time when we were doing some research before ChatGPT, and it was quiet and nice, and you can take your time to feel this model and put in some prompts and see some response. But as soon we feel we got swamped into this tsunami. And the development is just so fast, right? I assume for this audience, the students are less of going to be researchers like in these large, learning, building these large language models, probably more from a standpoint of using these large language models, right? For that, I would say that an important skill set is framing your prompt. You call it prompt engineering, right? How do you set up your question that include the proper context so the result they gave you is relevant? And for relevant and accuracy is another important perspective. And for that, for accuracy, you kind of need some experience, right? And get into the habit of seeing these numbers and do they really make sense to you? I think that's something that school doesn't really emphasize. But in these projects, there are definitely opportunities for you to, we build a model and you put in some input and you look at the output. Does it make sense, right? And questioning, and those are important when you actually use AI in the working environment, especially in finance, right? All the numbers are very important. In practical sense, I think AI already is making a big impact on coding. It's really good at coding. I think part of it is because coding instead of our natural language are more structured, a little bit more patternized that can be compressed into this LLM so it has a much better accuracy compared to natural language. And our team, we do use, I don't know if you have heard of these vibe coding tools. Those can help you pretty much tenfold your coding efficiency. And is completely game changing for our team. We're able to run a fairly significant function with a very small team.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna pass it off to Matias here.
Hello, I'm Matias, and I'll be covering some questions regarding AI in the workplace, as you guys were starting to touch on. So now that AI is being emergent in your guys' workspaces, what do you think are the best skills that students that are going through college and kind of starting to learn about the field, what do you think is the best skills they should have and to work alongside these AI tools and not get stomped out by them? I haven't heard from Jeremy in a bit. If you would want, if you have any insight on that.
Absolutely none. No. No, in our line of work in the service space, when AI is being brought up, it's usually thought of as ChatGPT, the large language models, the communicative aspects. In my line of work in the asset management space, we haven't seen a lot of an impact on that, but the machine learning piece gets to be really, really critical. Having a tool that is able to look at a desperate data set, organize it for you, normalize it for you, and then fix it saves an enormous amount of time. You also get into the predictive modeling. So how do you distribute the use licenses for your software or your engineering modeling software? How do you distribute that to your user base that makes the most sense? Well, that's usually done with a Monte Carlo piece and taking that data back, matching it up with what the actual use patterns look like, and then anticipating when you might be out of license compliance, when you need to buy more, or when you're able to recover licenses and avoid that extra cost. The thing that's really starting to get people's attention in my line of work is agentic AI. So those tools where you're able to actually have a bot make a decision on its own in place of a human being. Really see it a lot in the vendor management and purchasing. Once you have that agreement there, let the robot decide if you need to buy more or buy less. But that also means that you've got all of this other data that you need to collect about what's in your environment, what is sitting in your inventory that you can't see, and then make decisions based on that. So that's the stuff that I'm seeing, especially in this service management piece. It's going to be really critical because it goes right to the heart of business. Can you do it better, faster, and cheaper?
I'll just tag along what Jeremy just said and mentioning of agentic AI. I think that is definitely what I observe as the next big thing, and reflecting that on how could students be a bit prepared in that. And I think thinking like an agent could be having that mindset when you do project, right? Before you work on this project, I mean, there's the mindset of wanting to automate this project, right? You're breaking down the tasks, what triggers, what's the nature of your task. The automation mindset can set you up well so that the tools are already there. Probably at some point the vendors are mature enough, they have these UIs you can just drag and drop and configure your task. I think that's something that in your project, if you practice that mindset, that can set you up well.
I have yet to meet a vendor that is ready for that. That would be a great day if they were ready for the ask. I will say that. So
Thank you so much, you two, for responding. Does anyone else want to tag in or?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
talked for a while.
Of
Yeah.
course.
I actually work with a lot of young people every year. I work with a lot of people just graduated from undergrad or master program. Currently, my company, we have the Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. You can use the ChatGPT. Instead of thinking about how we can prepare for AI, like I do see the trend, like I do. Like I work with a lot of young people. They just graduate from college. A lot of them are top college, like Ivy school students. What I've been seeing is that people don't understand computer very well. Not to mention about using AI. At my work, I have multiple servers. I will say, move the data set from A server and B server. Those server was like strictly regulated data. And then people have hard time understand it. Like, what does that mean? You probably can use AI help you to do a lot of work, but without understanding how like cloud system work, just you go to the Amazon, we have Amazon like AWS 3P, people showing us how their playful are. Half the people couldn't follow it. I'm not kidding. The one who can follow is actually a very experienced person. That person probably doesn't know AI, but that person is introduced their AI technology behind all this playful. And then for us, we were thinking about like, okay, how does it cost? When I hit data set once, one query, how much are you gonna charge? How long does it take for this data set? That's an important factor for us because we are paid for it and we need to be mindful about the user. And that's kind of thing I feel like for younger generation, I think because the phone, people are very tied into the phone. And when I train young people, like now I'm in my mid-30s, like I train like young people, hopefully it's a good advice for you. I will say, I know it's very complicated for you to understand what I'm saying. I know it's tricky. Let's say I want you to SSH to a terminal and they're like so confused. Well, I know it's confused. I just say, write it down. You'll get what it means. Just keep doing what I say. I say, call the repository. I want you to change this code. If you don't understand it, ask ChatGPT how to do this. And then I give a lot of instruction. So to hope that people understand it. So go back to your question, the AI emergency, like I think gratefully people will learn how to use a lot of AI tools no matter what, because like this is what company want us to do. Like those tools keep pushing to us. You know, a lot of tech companies is actually like showing the statistics showing how people using AI tool. But you know, like to prepare the kind of like AI emergency, like the computer literacy is actually lower for younger generation, right? We know, like my generation is like, you know, Windows 95 till now, like, you know, so we keep learning how computer evolve, and now we have AI. But in the end, like when you do the data processing, like you gotta be mindful of how much memory you use. Your manager say you gotta delete this data set now. Like, why do you have to delete now? Like, it affects the hard drive size. Like, AI is not gonna do that for you, right? So at this point, and this kind of thing is like our day to day is like, oh, a lot of teachers say, hey, you maximize your data source. Why do you create so many data sets? And then like younger analysts have no idea that, oh, they create gigantic drug data set. And the senior one like, hey, you cannot do that. This kind of thing is more like, I think it's lacking in the younger generation. Hopefully you can get prepared for that. I do see like AI is helping us for sure. Like when I use AI, I will use AI to say, hey, can you explain this code block for me? Like we have a like very sophisticated, like software engineer people, their code is very sophisticated, like very hard to understand. I would just use AI to explain what they are doing to make sure like, oh, this is aligned our understanding. Or I will change the SQL code to Python or R code, use the AI tool. This is more like practical side we use. But fundamental like computer skill set, I do see across board, top student lacking that, except for computer science major a little bit better. So I think that's the thing that people can prepare. Like it make your life easier. I'm not kidding. When I say move data A, B, C, drag, you know, upload data from your desktop to A and B or C or something like that, you know, that definitely help you a lot and make it accelerate fast in the role. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That answer is really insightful, especially for someone who's trying to figure out. I totally get where you're coming from. Trying to figure out like how to manage your own computer to do your work is very important thing.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
helping you to understand the cloud space. Like we have a lot of cloud now. Yeah, AWS, Microsoft, everyone, a lot of cloud. But if without understanding the basic understood how computer work, like it's really hard to finish the task. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll pass it back off to Stephen for a few sets of questions.
Yeah, so with given the time that we have left, I'm going to transition just straight into the open Q&A with our students here. So I actually, if Aquan could ask his question for Ganga. And mind you, for our students here. Please have your questions directed to a specific panelist, just so we can quickly move through as many questions as we can.
Hi, so I was just wondering about basic morality and data tracking. Clearly, there's a lot of data and personal information that goes into a lot of these AI systems, but at what point does it get kind of intrusive? I mean, with people, tracking their literal body systems and they have to be okay with that, I guess. And
In health data sets, there are a lot of protections in place for, especially I think for health data sets. You cannot in any form, like the patient cannot be identifiable at all. And every time, if you're doing research, for example, it has to be IRB approved, Institutional Review Board approved. And then you have to be approved to kind of extract a certain data set. And then anytime you publish the results, whether it be internally, for your system-wide quality improvement, or, externally, you cannot in any form make any patient's data identifiable. And since the data is aggregated, I know that, patients have those kind of concerns. And sometimes when you are being prospectively studied, you have to provide, the patient has to provide consent. But for example, a health system can go back and look at patient records retrospectively. And for that, they kind of have to get approval. But in that case, really, you cannot identify the patient. The data is aggregated. So there are protections in place. I would say certain health systems have more protections, in the sense, more traditional protections than other health systems. I feel, for example, I work for TriHealth health systems. They did not want to put any of their data on REDCap. I don't know if you've heard about REDCap. This is kind of a data capture system, and anytime you make an edit to the data, you can tell where the edits are happening in the data set. So REDCap, it's more widely used in academic institutions like UCSD or University of Cincinnati, I believe University of Dayton. But I feel more of the community hospitals kind of may try to stay away from REDCap because it's not hosted on their server. The data would be hosted. It can be hosted on their server, but it's more likely hosted on the cloud. I think the REDCap, whoever is hosting REDCap. In the case of TriHealth, University of Cincinnati would have hosted it. So, they have concerns, privacy concerns. Patients have privacy concerns. The hospital privacy officer may have privacy concerns, and she did not want to have it on REDCap. So it happens. Yeah, but there are protections in place for patients, definitely. Thank you for your question.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess that makes your job harder. Is it that you can't sometimes get the data that you need?
Well, we can, in the sense that, I can always go back and, for example, it wouldn't always be me. The person who is abstracting the data, it would be, a nurse, for example, and she would go into the patient's chart, but she wouldn't try to get any data that would identify the patient. So it's all general data, for example, I worked in obstetrics and gynecology. It's like, what was the gestational age the baby was born, baby's weight, things like that. What had mom's pregnancy complications? It could be anybody. So, but the data is always aggregated. There's a lot of patients that you're studying at the same time. So it's really hard to tell who is who.
So there's no way to track it back to the person.
There shouldn't be. I mean, that's the point of it. There really shouldn't be any way to track. Yeah. Unless it's a case study that the doctor specifically gets consent from the patient. I'm going to write a case study about your case because I've never seen a case like this before.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
All right. Our next question is actually from Dr. Chen, for all four panelists.
The
What
question
kind of...
was, I got it from other people, so
okay,
just let you know. Yeah, it's from one of our participants.
All right. The question is, what data visualization tool do you prefer? And that could be like Tableau, R, Studio. If you have a specific visual thing.
So I'm going to actually jump in on this one, if you don't mind. Because I get asked this question a lot when we are building out the CMDBs and the service support systems for a client. What is the tool that you want? And I tell them the same thing that a photographer would tell if they were asked what's the best camera. It's the one in your pocket. And a lot of times, you as an individual are not going to get your choice of tool. You're going to get the tool that the organization has already bought. So now in my experience, it's about a 50-50 divide between Tableau and Power BI. The seem to be popular. Especially Power BI tends to get drug along with the Office 365 licensing. So that ends up being kind of popular. So I'll turn it over to, let's see, Jing, why don't you go next?
Oh yeah, I totally agree what you say. Individual doesn't have a choice. Whatever like a model document we use for Python, you just need to use Python. Everyone just use Python, and your manager say use that and use that tool. A lot of time, I know data, I use Python to like aggregate the data in Excel, and then my manager say, can you draw a chart in Excel, and we'll put that in PowerPoint. And if he say that, I will just do whatever he say. So I don't have a preference. My performance is tied out to what I can offer to my manager. So I don't argue. And then if I say, can I just use Python? I say, you already have data in Excel. Why don't you just do that? You get it in seconds. Yeah, and he's right. Like, why do we go back to use the tool? You prefer a lot of times about efficiency, what manager and management like want to have a lot of data analysis. So you can just provide a stable result and then like clear to understand. They don't really care about tool, but a lot of time the individual doesn't have a lot of choice. It's like manager asks you to do this, you just do that. Yeah.
Hey, Dan, what channel am I looking for? Satan.
Sharon.
Oh, so for our next question, I'll be asking, what steps or actions do you recommend students take to better understand and get comfortable with the growth of AI tools, and including just like chatbots or agentic AI, as we were discussing before?
I would take this one. I think that if there's not school project, just working on personal projects, that you get a chance to use these tools, right? There are app building projects or tools out there. There are Cursor, Windsurf. Sometimes you can give instructions and watch how these commands gets executed, and you can take a look at what's the code they're generated, and you get a little bit idea how it works, right? And seeing yourself doing it and seeing the result give you confidence that you can navigate and use these tools.
All right, thank you for the answer. I'll provide another question. This specifically goes with a background in business analytics and accounting. How can students prepare for analyst roles with a background in business analytics, accounting, or other financial or financial adjacent fields, including pursuing online certificates or data science? Jeremy, if you'd like to add on.
Yeah, actually, I think Grant, was it Genghua actually hit the nail right on the head. Don't be afraid to experiment. So for the, are you going to be, the question being asked though, are you looking for a specific certification or pathway? For the big one that you're going to end up running up against is the project management certificate. That one really sets you up to get you through the HR system and get noticed for being part of organizational change that is going on. Again, since my work is done a lot in the service management side, you also see ITIL pop up a lot, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. But again, that's going to end up pulling you further away from the data piece. So yeah, I actually thought a little bit about this, and that PMP seems to be would be a really good spot, especially to give you that 1 foot in each camp, the business analytics and the finance side, as well as the programming and visualization and analytics side.
All right. Yeah, Grant.
Yes, I'll just add another certificate on the finance side, the Financial Risk Manager, the FRM. It has 2 parts. The first part is 100 question, and second part 80 question multiple choice questions. Preparing for it and learning was a great time, and it really forces me to learn a lot and in a very broad spectrum of various risks in the finance world. And there are certainly a big section on the quants areas, and it just made me appreciate just how sophisticated this field is and how broad this field is. And with such a certificate, will prepare you for roles like credit analyst, financial analyst, market risk analyst in the quant modeling world. There are just tons of jobs out there that this particular certificate can help you with.
All right. Would either of our other panelists have anything to say on that?
I just wanted to mention, like, I've noticed, like, for example, in healthcare hospital systems, like the data analytics team, at least, not only were they kind of well versed in, like, Tableau or Power BI, but they actually had to kind of be more, kind of learn a lot about the informatics side of things, like the database part of it, because you want to make a, change to your system, your EMR, it's if you wanted to give you a report or anything, it really needs to go back into the database side of things. So not only like kind of well versed in data science, but I think some of the IT part of it is kind of a requirement for that job. So it's kind of a merging of statistics and computer science. So kind of for those that are kind of inclined, both in both these kind of fields, I think this is something to think about as well. Kind of, the way you kind of integrate it is through the database end, and kind of understanding that, and that really comes back to the basic computer science tools. Learning, C, C++, Java, those database essentials. Yeah.
Ganga, can I ask you a question? In your
Yes.
work, knowing that you're more on the research side, do you
Sure.
run into any of the high trust standards from the cybersecurity and information controls from that side? That's another good certificate, but that's more on the cybersecurity and the handling of data and the protecting of professional data.
I think it's kind of our job to not get into trouble with that area. And because that's just kind of the nature of our task, right? Like we just don't venture into that area, so it has to meet the requirements that has been approved for. if it doesn't meet the requirements, we have to get rid of the data, and, make a, this is what I forget what it's called, but you have to make a note. It has to be recorded that this has happened, but otherwise, sometimes our IT teams would give us data that is not approved for, and then we're like, no, we don't need this. Can you remove this? Or we remove it if they can't do it for us. But it's our job to make sure that we're only working with data sets that is approved for.
All right. And before we reach the end of our time, I have one more question about specifically in the background of computer science. So this is towards those within that field. When starting to pursue quantitative modeling and risk analytics, is it better to heavily focus on machine learning or just statistics broadly?
Should I? So if you're like how do I say? If your target is like getting the job, I feel a lot of time is like so like we have a lot of every year we have a lot of intern, hundreds of people come in and interview it. Not just computer science, a lot of STEM program, math, econ people. A lot of time people want to know how like your personality wise, on top of your foundation, that how malleable, how much you can grow, what is your potential. So think about how you can show your potential. Online certificate might work, but when your resume has 5 or 6 online certificate, and I ask a lot of basic questions, you cannot answer it. Do you think you can get a job? So in the end, it's not about those online certificate, in my opinion. For example, like a few months ago, I interviewed an econ PhD recent graduate. I say, can you explain what is your dissertation about? He got so nervous. And then I feel like, how can you not expect people ask that question? Shouldn't you prepare very well? Think about you, like after you get a bachelor degree, and you want to see that people maybe feel people like your potential. You can bring a lot of value. You can bring a lot of value to this team. What kind of quality you should have? In my opinion, first one, communication, right? You should be able to like communicate your skill set. When you have a challenging, how do you solve the challenging? And when you see the problem, how do you describe problem? Communication is very important. And second is like, where your skill set? How good are you? A lot of time people put a lot of things on their resume, but interviewer will ask basic questions and you know how good you are. So this is the thing I think people should work on, and I see a lot of undergrad. And how I notice that it's not a person with a wonderful resume, have everything skill set all good. It's like they are very motivated and willing to learn, always like on top of everything. That is the person I want to work with. I'm not worried about I have to teach that person a lot of stuff. And a lot of time I think this is like corporate wants. So like your degree is important. Like we do have like a lot of analysts from different school. And I'm not surprised. I would be, like last year, this year, I worked with a person from the Pittsburgh local college. I just never heard of. But he's the most motivated person I work with because always ask me question, why we're doing this? And then I will quizzing last time I say, do you know why we're doing this? And like he's actually like very engaging. So like I see the growth and the managers see the growth and people are willing to grow with you. And I think that is the quality we want to have. So think about this more. I think having an online certificate is very good. But at the same time, online certificate is just a certificate. And this whole like 6 months education, if people ask you the question they think you should know, that certificate sometimes help you, sometimes doesn't help you, So yeah, think about like how you gonna cultivate your skill set, your quality. I think that's very important. Yeah. To make you stand out, like, a lot of times 1,000 or 3,000 people competing with you for like corporate job fair, like you like hire 500 people or 300. A lot of companies have this kind of job fair, like consulting firm and big corporate and everything. And honestly, I've been talking to a lot of people, they don't really care about your online certificate. Some of them care, but that's the thing, like the person is very motivated and have a lot of online certificate. That is definitely good quality. Like, oh yeah, that person is great. But at the same time, if a person has a lot of online certificate, but doesn't seem very curiosity, and then that's probably not helping. So we want to see a person as variable that will make it. I think this tied out to one of the questions that you had about the resume. How do you stand out? Yeah. Make sure everything on your resume, like you can explain. And then you know what's going on for any project you did it. And a lot of time, it happened before, like multiple time. I asked you what did you do in the past in resume. A lot of people couldn't answer it. That's that sign.
Well, thank you for
So
the insights into both into the resume
Yeah.
advice and advice on what to actually talk about when pursuing a kind of focus into analytics.
Yeah.
Dr. Chen has one last question. Thank you for
Mhm.
sticking with us past the
Sorry.
allotted time.
That question is very important. Let me ask it. Okay. So before this, I want to comment what Jingyi just mentioned. This being said, having a 4.0 GPA is great. However, you really need to learn something from your degree, not just getting a high grade. Right? Okay. So my question is, you can simply tell me yes or no. Okay. So because now we have AI, we can use AI to help us to code. Because of this, some professors thought students don't have to learn how to code because we can ask ChatGPT to code. Is this true? Can we use ChatGPT to clean data? What is your answer?
Can you clarify your question? Is your question that
Should
students
students still learn how to code in R or Python or
That is
programming
so.
language?
That is so. Yeah, I think probably all of us will agree on that. Still need
Do
still
you
need to
think
learn the
students
coding.
still need to learn how to code? Or can
Yeah,
they just
yes.
simply say,
Because
hey, ChatGPT, help me to clean the data?
But we don't know if they're doing it right. So if we don't know to code, we can't correct, we can't check it. And also it's
Yeah.
so important to have conceptual knowledge. I mean, so that what you actually what they're writing, the code is actually what you wanted to do. Yeah,
So-
I
Well,
think fundamentals are
I
important.
think the fundamental question is, I've been seeing my colleague using it, the younger colleague using it when I ask ChatGPT. It's like a lot of time they are asking the wrong question because they have no idea what's going on. That's a problem. Because like if you don't understand the Python or like object-oriented language very well or something, sometimes you don't even know how to ask the right question. So they will ask like 10 questions and never get a result. And one time they get a result, the prompt, and they keep try and error, but in the end, it's probably
I
wasting
think
more time.
that's so true. And I think the value of learning the coding is that it teaches you how the data can be transformed. It teaches you the data, the structure of the data. If you want to get certain insight or do certain modeling, how should you change the data as is? I think the code definitely has a lot of value in that.
yeah, and knowing what that story is going to allow you to fix it when it goes wrong. And that was something that Jing Li and Gran are touching on. You know, I am not a coder. Naturally, I'm SQL stupid, but I always make sure that I've got someone close by that when I say, hey, I needed to do this, that, and the other, because if it doesn't happen, I can turn around and say, okay, what did I miss? What might have you missed? Why is this not behaving as expected? With ChatGTP generating that code, it's not going to be able to give me that feedback when something doesn't work.
But I want to say another example, like I think like a few years ago, Jason Wang, NVIDIA CEO, he said, like in 5 years or like 10 years, AI is gonna do very well, but MKSAT or whatever 800 tasks, 1% better than human. But does that mean humans can take a task to quantify how good you are? Right? Does it mean that AI can do it? We don't have to do it? That's a question to think about it. Right? I think he's trying, the CEO is trying to say like, oh, it's so good, AI can do those questions very well, 100%. But it doesn't mean we don't have to do it. It doesn't mean like those standardized tasks are not good. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for coming. This we'll just quickly wrap this up. Um, well, thank you for answering all of our questions, and diving into your experiences both with data and the respective fields that you come from. How would you like, in case students want to reach out with further questions that they have, or for connections as they start to look at joining the workforce, how would you like them to reach out?
Stephen, I think
Would
students can send questions to me, and I can forward
just straight to you?
questions. Yes.
All right.
If you have questions, please send questions to me. Okay, and I will help you to reach out the panelists.
Yeah. And then with that said, thank you again. And that concludes the industry panel.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your participation. I hope you learned something from today's session. Jingyi and Ganga and Genghua, if you want to stay for networking, yeah, you can, if you have time. Yeah.
Probably
Sure.
can
So
moderate, probably can
I'm going
moderate.
to stop recording. Right?
Yeah, okay,
Because,
great.
yeah.
Yeah,